Welcome to the wonderful world of Lunn Learning, a new and exciting way for children to learn about nature, wildlife and conservation through stories. The first is an adventure story called The Squirrel. Chapter 6, Getting Ready. Red woke up the following morning and didn't know if he'd been dreaming or if it had actually happened. Was he really going to be in charge? Was he really going to lead the operation? Then he remembered the meeting and he remembered the vote. Yes, he was going to be the leader. I'd better get started, he thought. He stretched his front legs and yawned a huge yawn. He blinked big blinks and jumped out of bed. He stood to attention, puffed out his chest and said out loud with confidence, "I am Colonel Red and I am in charge." He had a good shake to fluff up his thin fur and then he climbed down from his den. First, he needed some breakfast. "Breakfast is the most important meal of the day," his mummy had said to him every morning. He was skinny and his hair was falling out, but all that would change soon because PM had shown him where the grey squirrels had stashed all the food. He went to the nearest store and started munching on pine nuts. As he nibbled on his breakfast, he realised that all the other red squirrels needed breakfast too. They all needed to know where the greys had stashed the food. He twiddled the few remaining hairs on his ears and thought about how to get everybody fit and healthy again. He started to make a plan. When he'd eaten as much as he could eat, Red set off to see Whiskers. He was going to tell him where all the food was and ask him to whistle signals to all the red squirrels around the forest so that they knew too. On the way, he noticed that every red squirrel that saw him stood to attention and saluted him. That's odd, he thought. He waved back and carried on to see Whiskers. A little while later, he got to where Whiskers lived, and instantly Whiskers climbed down the tree and marched towards him. He saluted Red and said, "Good morning, Colonel." Good morning, Whiskers." "Major Whiskers at your service, sir," he replied, standing to attention and saluting him. "Thank you, Whiskers, but, I don't think we need to do all this military stuff until it's time for Operation Greyaway." Whiskers slowly dropped his paw and slowly stopped standing to attention. He was disappointed. He enjoyed being Major Whiskers. Red could see he was sad, so he quickly started telling him where the food stores were and asked him to whistle to all the other red squirrels to let them know too. Instantly Whiskers cheered up and started whistling away. "Now then, Whiskers," said Red, "you need to do this every morning like the wake-up trumpet call in the army." "Great," said Whiskers. "I can do that." "This is important so that we all have good breakfasts and eat well every day throughout the winter." "Great," said Whiskers. "We can do that." "Then we'll be able to do Operation Greyaway when we're all big and strong and the greys are hungry and needing food." "Great," said Whiskers. "We'll get rid of the greys," he cried, and he jumped around and punched the air with his paws. "Yes, we will, Whiskers." Red raised a front paw and said, "High paws!" Whiskers raised his front paw and they slapped their paws together. Red waved goodbye and set off to do the next part of his plan. He was going to see PM. The part of the forest where the pine martens lived was strictly out of bounds as far as the squirrels were concerned. None of them ever ventured into that dark and damp place. "You'll get eaten alive," his mummy had told him. "Don't ever go there," she had said. But Red was sure that PM wasn't like that. PM had helped him find food. PM had given him the idea of how to chase the greys away. PM seemed nice and friendly. Surely PM wouldn't eat him alive. Surely not. As he got near to where the pine martens lived, he felt he was being watched. He stopped and looked around, but he couldn't see anybody. He carried on walking, and he thought he saw dark shadows moving in the trees. He stopped. He looked up, but there was nobody there. Or so he thought. The pine martens were watching Red. PM had told them all about the cunning plan to fatten up the red squirrels, then eat them up. They could see that Red was really skinny, so not a tasty meal at all. Not yet, anyway. They let him get deeper and deeper into their part of the forest and signalled to PM that he was approaching.
"How you doing there, Red?"
a voice asked from in the trees. Red stood motionless, as if he was frozen to the spot. Who's there?" Red asked with a quivering voice.
"It's me, PM. How's things with ya?"
called PM, and he ran down the tree next to where Red was standing. "Oh, PM, it's you!"
"Ha ha! Yeah, it's me. Are you eating all the food I showed ya? Got all the others eating it too?"
"Oh, yes, PM. Thank you so much for being so kind. We're all eating well and we'll soon be big and strong. We'll be well enough to chase the greys away by springtime, like you said."
"That's good news, Red. Happy to help. Why are you here?"
"Well, it's to chat about your idea and make a plan," Red replied.
"Cool. Let's get down to it."
PM let out a loud squeal, and instantly his dutiful servant One Fang appeared and stood by his side. Red stared at him. He saw the empty socket where his left eye used to be. He saw a chunk had been torn out of his left ear. He saw the long scar running down from his ear to his mouth, and the gap where a fang should be. Red realised he must have been in terrible pain when he got these injuries. Instantly, Red felt sorry for him.
"You call, boss?"
said One Fang with his rough, husky voice.
"Yeah, I want you two to meet. Red, this is One Fang. One Fang, this is Red."
They both nodded to each other.
"Right, let's get down to it. Here's the plan."
The three of them huddled together, and PM described how the red squirrels and the pine martens could chase the greys away.
"First, you need to get the greys into the cleared section of the forest. Maybe leave a few nuts and acorns lying around. Have a trail of food so them greys go all the way down the clearing. At the end, we'll be waiting. When we seize them, we'll leap out and chase them. They'll be so frightened they'll run far away from the forest and they'll never come back."
"Oh, PM, that sounds wonderful. Your plan sounds perfect. We'll do exactly as you say. Thank you so much," Red exclaimed with a huge smile. Red left with a happy skip and jump in his walk. When he was out of sight, One Fang turned to PM with a puzzled look on his face.
So we don't get to eat them greys, boss?
He asked.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't. Or yeah, we do, boss. Yeah, we do. Oh, come, boss. You said we'll chase them away. I know I did. That was to fool Red and make him keep his side of the bargain. We're going to chase them into a trap. A trap, boss? Yeah. We'll trap 'em and eat 'em, then go back for the Reds.
Their mouths started to dribble. They looked straight at each other with sneers of delight. This was a cunning plan. Red went to see Stick straight away, and he told him all about the plan.
"Well done, Red," exclaimed Stick. "You have thought up a master plan. It's far better than the one I was working on. Well done."
Red didn't have the courage to admit it was actually one of the pine martens who had thought it up.
"And what about food? Where are we going to get food?" asked Stick.
"I know where the Greys have stashed it," replied Red.
"Oh, well done, Red. Well done. I knew you'd be the right one to be in charge. Well done."
Red smiled, but it was a fake smile. He felt guilty about taking credit for something he hadn't done. But then he realised he wasn't lying. He just wasn't telling the whole truth. Did that matter? He decided that it didn't, so he just kept quiet and accepted Stick's pat on the back. When he got back home, Red thought about it and thought about it. Did it matter that he hadn't told the whole truth? He thought about it so much that his head began to hurt, so he stopped thinking about it and got ready for bed. He curled up in his cosy bed of moss and leaves and slowly fell fast asleep. Written and narrated by Fiona Lunn. Recorded by Tony O'Malley. Produced by Guy Benoist. Illustrations by Sarah Westaway.